It's time to revisit my dark cupcake past. Hi everyone, it's Tasha and welcome to another recipe video, and today we are going to be making strawberry cupcakes using freeze-dried strawberry powder. Timestamps are down below in the description if you want to skip the initial blah blah, but stick around if you want to hear a few key notes about what we're making first, and for a bit of Tash Cakes lore. Now I had a lot of freeze-dried strawberry powder left over from when I made strawberry pancakes, and I've been really wanting to use freeze-dried strawberry powder in buttercream for a long time. The only thing holding me back was I hate making buttercream, and this goes back to over 10 years ago when I used to bake cakes for friends, family, colleagues, anyone in the know that knew that I made cakes. It wasn't really a business, it was a word of mouth thing. I was producing a cake for someone maybe once every other month. I've long since retired because I couldn't continue having a full-time job doing that and doing all the rest of my hobbies. But one of the biggest things I don't miss about doing that is the endless buttercream. Don't get me wrong, I love baking. This is why I'm here. But if you might remember me mentioning in past videos, I hate working with icing sugar. It's a sensory nightmare, it gets everywhere. Even opening the box, a puff of icing sugar cloud goes into the atmosphere, into your lungs, onto the work surface. And I also don't own a stand mixer with one of those really nice lids, so I'm there with my hand mixer and it's all going everywhere to varying degrees. Obviously I got used to it and I could minimise it, but not totally escape it. And that's why I hated making buttercream. And also why nowadays I very rarely make cupcakes or buttercream cakes in general. I think I've made like one other cupcake video on this channel so far. Now I have another dirty little secret. I'm not a massive icing person. I'm going to use my favourite method of putting buttercream on, which is using a rose tip, so the layer of buttercream ends up a little bit thinner than piping the big swirl on top. So I'm actually going to be left with about half of the frosting left, but if you use the big swirl method you will end up using most of the buttercream. So it's totally up to you what method you use, and if you end up with leftover buttercream it freezes beautifully. So with all that said, let's go to the kitchen and see how it's done. First let's preheat the oven to 180 degrees C. And we're going to make our cupcakes first. So here I have 170 grams of unsalted butter which I've softened at room temperature, and I'm going to add 170 grams of caster sugar. And I'm going to cream these together until it's light and fluffy. And now I'm also going to beat in 25 grams of freeze-dried strawberry powder. Now we're going to beat in 3 eggs. Future Tash here, I accidentally pressed pause and play at the wrong time, so you missed me beating the eggs in, but that's all I did. I whisked the eggs in. And to bring out the flavour, I'm just going to add a little pinch of salt and about a teaspoonful of vanilla extract. Let's give this a quick whiz in. And now we're going to add in 170 grams of self-raising flour. And we're going to whisk this in until it's just combined, but because this is flour we don't want to overmix it, otherwise it'll get tough because we'll activate the gluten, so switch off your beater as soon as it's done. And as soon as it's done, whoops, I'm just going to add in 3 tablespoonfuls of milk. This is just going to loosen up the mixture a bit. And again, incorporate until it's just incorporated. Lovely. Let's just get as much of the mixture out of our beaters as possible. Just going to give the sides a run around with my spatula, which I'm also going to use in a minute to make sure I get all of that lovely batter out and into cupcake cases. Let's set this aside. And here is a cupcake tin I prepared earlier. So I've got ours lined with lots of paper cupcake cases. This is going to make 12. And we're going to evenly divide the batter between our cupcake cases. I have a handy cookie scoop, well, ice cream scoop really, to do this. There we go, some are definitely going to be a bit bigger than the others, but that does not matter. Right, let's bake these for about 15 minutes or until they're risen and lightly golden brown on top. That was a little more than 15 minutes, 17 minutes exactly, so it'll take you, 15 to 20 minutes, just keep an eye on them. Now we're just going to let them cool down completely. Once our cupcakes are cool, we'll make the buttercream. Here I have 250 grams of unsalted butter, which I've softened. Room temperature is quite a bit cold at the moment, so I actually put this in the oven on the lowest setting just for a couple of minutes, so it did melt a little bit, but yes, if I actually kept this out at current winter room temperature, it would not have softened. And I'm going to go straight in with my whisk and beat this until it's light and fluffy. There we go. It's important that the butter wasn't actually melted, by the way, you do need it solid, just softened. Also, whipping the butter first before you add any of the other ingredients. Make sure that you whip as much air in as possible, and that's the key to good buttercream, you want it light and fluffy. Now we're going to gradually whisk in 500 grams of icing sugar. That happens to be a whole box for me, but I'm not going to do it all in one go because I don't like it when icing sugar goes everywhere. So I'm going to do it in portions. When it gets towards halfway to the end of adding the icing sugar, I am also going to gradually, bit by bit, add 50 millilitres of milk. It's going to help thin it down a little bit. I'm going to add that bit by bit too. Phew! That was a lot of work. Right, now we're going to add 50 grams of freeze-dried strawberries. This is going to colour and flavour our frosting. Oh, that smells so good. Don't forget to give the sides of the bowl a bit of a scrape down because we would have missed a few bits of unwhipped in butter and sugar in the sides. We want it to be nice and even. And we are done. I love the texture of this, it's almost like a strawberry mousse. Now we're going to put this in a piping bag, which I fitted with a raised tip, so it's kind of like a star tip but it's enclosed. And now we're going to pipe swirly rose shapes on top, starting from the middle and swirling outwards. And as you can see, because I used that enclosed rose tip rather than the star tip, which I talked about at the beginning of this recipe video, I have half a bag of icing left. So I'm actually going to transfer this into a freezer bag, and I'm going to freeze it because it keeps quite well for a month or two in the freezer. And then all you have to do is defrost it, give it a stir, and then use it again. And if you're using the star tip and piping them rather very tall, then you will probably use most of this bag. The strawberry smell coming from these cupcakes is so good. Okay, I'm going to peel a cupcake and I'm going to eat a cupcake. For the purpose of the thumbnail, here's what it looks like to scale against my face. But because I feel guilty, I am going to take a bite out of the one we've already cut into. Cheers! It's so fruity. Definitely worth battling through my vendetta with icing sugar. So there you go, strawberry cupcakes. Thanks for watching. I hope you enjoyed today's recipe video and I hope you'll join me next Wednesday for my next one. Get the full written recipe on my blog tashcakes.com, follow me on Instagram on tashcakes.taste and find me on TikTok too. I'm tashcakes there too, but my handle is food and slow motion. Subscribe and hit the notification bell if you'd like to see more. Give this video a like if you'd like to help other people find it. Comment down below if you'd like me to make anything in particular, and I will see you all next time. Be good, be nice and have a good week. Don't know if you heard that, one of the little kids next door stood outside and yelled, "Hello!"